Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Ankush here from Alif Consulting. Today we are going to talk about Azure Site Recovery. Before going into the video, let's understand what we are going to cover in this. So we're going to cover about the introduction about the service. We're going to cover out the supported scenarios. What are the advantages? What are the security features? What exactly we can get through the ASR, what are the supported replication scenarios, how exactly a failover types looks like, and what is the ASR cost, and at the end we're going to have a demo in which I'm going to show you how you can create a ASR recovery vault and how you can protect a Azure VM, or how you can use this to migrate the VM to the another region, or you can use it to protect as a DR for a BCDR. Right, so let's quickly start with the introduction. So Azure Site Recovery is the DR as a service offered by the Microsoft for use in the cloud and the hybrid cloud architecture. A near consistent data replication process makes sure copies are in sync. The application consistent snapshot features of the site recovery ensure that the data is in stable state after the failover. The service enable customer to use Azure as a disaster recovery site as pay as you go model without having investing in the additional infrastructure. Right. So let's understand first. So Azure Site Recovery is a Microsoft offering, right? And Azure Site Recovery can be used in two scenarios, right? Let's say there is a customer who is already running on the VMware, but he want to move out from that scenario and he want to move it to the Azure. The Azure Site Recovery can use in that case always to migrate the VMs to the Azure. Although we need to go with the Azure Migrate project, which allow us to do the assessment and allow us to map the resources based on the services how they are connected. But at the end, site recovery is the only option through which the VM is going to be replicated to the Azure, and uh, then from where we can do and move the VMs to the Azure. That is the first option. The most popular option, the reason Azure Site Recovery is used for the business continuity, right? Or business continuity disaster recovery. Let's say you already have your site running on the on-premise and you don't want to go with the another investment, having another data center and investing in the hardware, softwares, a storage account, firewalls. You don't want to go on that kind of stuff, right? You simply want to have a pay-as-you-go solution where you only going to pay when you are protecting a VM or when you are basically using the VM, right? So for that, ASR is also one of the good solution which is used by organizations, and ASR can use to prepare the BCDR for VMware infrastructure, a Hyper-V, physical, and Azure to Azure as well, right? Supported scenario, so replication of the physical server from the on-premise and the third-party service provided to the Azure. Windows, Linux VM hosted in the VMware and Hyper-V to the Azure. Windows machine or the Linux machine hosted in the AWS to the Azure. Windows machine, Linux machine hosted in the Azure stack to the Azure. Now, one more thing. If you have a Windows machine or Linux machine hosted in the GCP or maybe in Oracle or maybe in Alibaba, you can use them, you can move them as well to the Azure cloud using the Azure Site Recovery. The only change which is going to be there, you have to make sure those VM are known as a dedicated VM. Then only ASR is going to be recognize them and will be able to protect them using the Site Recovery Vault service. Well, we do have a plenty of advantages having the Azure Recovery Vault. We're going to cover few which are main. So it's a platform agnostic. It can work with Microsoft, it can work with the VMware, it can work with the Hyper-V, it can work with the OpenStack, it can be work with the with the Linux as well. Either the environment can be physical or virtualized. Reduce the cost of deploying, monitoring, patching, and maintaining the on-premise disaster recovery. Right? It's application consistent snapshot for both single and n-tier of applications. Ensure compliance by testing your disaster recovery plan without impacting the production workload, right? This is a very important thing. With the Azure Site Recovery, we do have a test failover option which allow us to basically test our DR or test of the last application point without impacting in our existing or original VM, right? In the on-premise, when we need to do a DR testing, we need to basically stop our primary resources, and then we need to route the traffic to the DR. Then only we would be able to test our DR resources, which is our practice and which we need to do in every quarter. But using the site recovery, we do have an option where we basically can use the test failover application without interrupting our production workloads. Okay, all right. So it's near to replications, near sync replication. We can replicate in every 5 minutes and then configure hourly up to 72 hours. So with for the Azure to Azure VM, we can replicate the changes from production to the DR in every 5 minutes. Integrated with the SQL always on and several partnership with the other application, including the application driver of reference technology. So ASR supported by most of the third-party applications as well. We can use the ASR to protect them as well, right? Flexible recovery plan along with the availability of the testing. We can create our flexible recovery plan according to the availability of the testing as well. So this is not something like we manually need to go ahead and run the failover for one by one. We can create our own recovery plan and we can run that, and accordingly our DR test will be going to be happen or disaster will be going to be happen. So these are the some of the advantage and the major advantage which allow us to use Azure Site Recovery more specifically for the BCDR. Security features. So these are the security features. It's uh, encrypted, so all the data in transit or everything data is coming from on-premise or from the any organization. So it support encryption in transit and encryption the rest as well. Data flow through the secured, authenticated, and certified HTTPS channel. Customer maintain the encryption certification. So any kind of encryptions or any kind of like certificate which you're using for the authentication, that's something we're going to be managed, right? But rest of the thing like data in transit or data in rest are encrypted. Data flow between on-premise to Azure or Azure to Azure is basically happen through the secure, authenticated, and certified HTTPS channels. What does site recovery do, right? So we do have plenty of options which site recovery do and help us to basically minimize the overhead of business continuity disaster recovery plans. So it simplify the BCDS solution, VMware replication, Azure VM replication, it do on-premise VM replication, data resiliency is there, RTO RPO target is there, keep app consistent over the failover, testing without a disturbance, flexible failovers, customized recovery plan, BCDR integrations, Azure automation integration, and the network integrations, right? So these are the plenty of option that site recovery provide us to create or basically a failover recovery plan and achieve us RTO and RPO according to our business requirement. Supported replication. So you can see you do have a site-to-site recovery between Azure, which you can use, and you can replicate the infrastructure from one region to the another region. At the same time, you do have a VMware to Azure applications, which you can use using the secure channel, and then you need to basically have a master target server and process and configuration servers to replicate the VMware environment. At the same time, you can basically replicate your physical servers to the Azure as well using the secure channel. And for that case, what you need to do, you need to install a mobility agent on the VMs, which is responsible for doing the replication from on-premise to the Microsoft. In case of if you're doing from on-premise to the Microsoft, you need to have a 3 server, which can be a process and configuration server, and then can be a master target server. So these are the three component which is required there whenever you are using or whenever doing your application from the on-premise to Azure. Failover types. So we do have a 3 failover types in the ASR. We do have a test failover, which basically used to validate the replication strategy or perform a DR drill. We do have a plan failover for the planned maintenance or to meet the compliance requirement. And we do have an unplanned failover in which there is an unexpected incident happened, maybe the virus attack, maybe the power outage, or maybe the physical disaster, maybe the natural disaster. in this case you need to do the dr, you need to initiate the dr, right? And you need to basically do a failover to the dr location or the dr infrastructure, right? In the unexpected failover, data loss depend on the replication frequency. If you have defined the record replication frequency for, let's say, 24 hours, you will be get lost your data from the last replication point to till when the unplanned failover happened. Cost. So for first 4 days, the cost is free. Either you are doing it to from VMware, Hyper-V, or physical to Azure, or either you are doing it between Azure to Azure. After that, for customer on site, which is up on premise to the Azure site recovery, we are going to pay for $16 per month for per instance. Or if we are doing Azure to Azure site recovery, we are going to pay $25 per month per instance, right? So there is a slightly different, I understand, but this is the pricing which is looks like. Let's move to the demo. So in the demo, I will be going to show you how you can use ASR or a recovery vault to replicate your VM to the another region, and how exactly you are select your reasons for your business continuity plan. Oops, sorry for that. Yep, I have already logged in my Azure subscription. So before moving to the recovery vault, let's see how we select Azure reason for the business continuity, right? In Azure, every region is paired with one region to the another region, right? What is paired region? So in the paired region, what happened? Let's say you have a one region. Let's take an example. In India, we have a three region, or Central India and South India are paired to the each other. Let's say if there is any plant maintenance going in a Central India, at the same time, Microsoft will make sure there is no other activity is going to be happen in the South India. At the same time, if South India is selected, and in any outages, anything or any maintenance is happening in the South India, Microsoft will take care. There is no another activity is happened in the Central India, West India. That's where paired regions come in place. So Microsoft is going to be make sure only one region is going to be have any kind of maintenance plan or the planned maintenance. During the time, the other region will be not get touched, right? So that's how the paired region is done by the Microsoft, and that's where it's become important when we are selecting the our another region for the BCDR. Let's say if we have a resources in the central India, we only have an option to use a South India for the business continuity, right? But sorry for that. But at the same time, we do have option to select other region. It doesn't mean we are bonded to a one region, like we only need to go in the South India. We can select the other region as well, but that's not going to be your business continuity plan based on the Microsoft recommendation. Second, we can also use, as I told you, we can also use Azure Recovery Vault for the migration, right? So let's say if we have our resources in the center India, but later on we realize, okay, we need to move into the Singapore because of the user response or the user request we are getting mostly from the Singapore user, and we want to make sure the experience for them good will be going to be best, right? But being in a center India or maybe in the India location, latency is going to be high. So with the Azure Site Recovery, we can move our applications or we can move our complete server to the another region as well, and then we can make that server up there also, right? So that's where a paired region or cross region replication become a more important when you are specifically planning for your business continuity plan, right? So for the ASR, what you need a recovery vault, and then you need a VM which you want to protect or which you want to replicate it to the another region, right? So to create this recovery vault, it's a pretty much straightforward and simple. You just need to go on the recovery vault, recovery service vault section. You just need to click on create. You can search from here as well, or you can go to the all service and you can search for recovery service vault, right? And you will be going to become inside this console, and here you can click on create. You can select the resource group. You can select your this is the resource group. You can select your region, and then you can select your vault name. Now, one important thing, the region is going to be same where your primary workloads are there, right? So that's something you need to understand. And then you can select the replication to the another region inside the recovery vault. You need to define your recovery vault name. You just define the location. Again, location is going to be same from where you're protecting your resources. You can define your tags and click on review plus create. It's going to validate the all the information which you have submitted or which you have entered, and then you can click on create. As soon as you click on create, it's going to take 2 to 3 minutes to create a recovery vault, right? Now, one more important thing, when you create a recovery vault, by default it's have a geo replication enabled for the storage replication, specifically for the backup configuration, which basically not matter for this demo as of now. But if you don't want to go with the GRS, or you only want to have a LRS for the backup configuration, or for the storage type, you can change it only once it is created, not after if you have protected your resources, right? So you just need to click on create in my case, and that's it. The recovery vault will be get deployed. In my case, I'm not going to create it because I already have one recovery vault created. And this one, once you go inside of this, you do have a two option. You can click on enable site recovery on the top, or you can go to the protected item. You can click on replicated item, and here you can enable the replication as well, right? When you click on the replication, you do have a four option. Either you want to replicate Azure VMs, either you want to use VMware or physical VMs, either you want to do a Hyper-V VMs, or either you want to do Hyper-VM hyper machine to the recovery, which is a SCVMM, which is a system center virtual machine manager, right? If you go with the physical server or the VMware, it will be going to ask you a few options. Like in this case, what we need to do, we need to create a migration server, or and that migration server will be required to select the source, and that's something very important, specifically in case of if we are doing on-premise to Azure. And the migration project will be going to connect with your VMware, or your on-premise physical server by using the Azure Migrate appliance, and then you can register that appliance to the recovery vault, and from there we can see, or we can basically start migrating your VMs. Right, now let's select the first option, Azure virtual machines. So that's what we want to do. That's our primary focus in this demo. So we're going to select what is the source location, right? In our case, the source location is in center India. This is giving you a warning, right? It shouldn't be the same. uh, if you are protecting the machine across the zone or not to the cross region, maybe continue. For the cross tier function, your vault should be in the different region, right? So this is a warning, and I really apologize for that. There is a one thing which I mentioned while creating your recovery vault. You need to select the uh, same location where your resources resources are created. But to correct that, just make sure you should select the location where you want to protect or where you want to migrate your resources. You can select your source location, you can select your machine deployment type, what is the subscription, and what is the resource group from where you want to select the resources. Click on next. Okay, we want to enable this one. Also enable the zone recovery availability if you want to do, and click on next. Okay, it's not showing me a VM. Let me see if I have okay, it looks like it's in a center VM. Okay, I got it. So what I did, actually, I have selected the uh, wrong resource group. No, the resource group is selected. I have selected the correct one. Uh, okay, I don't know why it's not showing me a VM, but from here we can select the VM, and we can replicate it to the to the another reason. Oh, what we can do, like if we want to, in my case, I'm only doing the one. So when you go to the recovery vault and you will go to the site recovery, you will be able to see the option here. You just need to click on enable, and then you can select your source location, your uh, like what exactly it's going to be, and then you can you would be able to select your VM, and then you can set up the replication setting. But at the same time, it's not giving you a VM here. So let's quickly go to the VM. We do have an option to protect the VM inside the VM configuration setting as well. So we can go to the disaster recovery. We can select the target region. You see, we do have freedom to select uh, the region. So in my case, I'm going with the South India. That's it. And then I need to define a few settings uh, in the advance. So it's taking a little bit of time here. So we do have an option to replicate the VM between the zones as well. So let's say if we want to, if our region have a 2 or 3 zones and we want to replicate in between them, we can do that as well. Okay, it looks like it's got stuck. So let's go back and yep, let's select. Let's keep it the east to west only because that's what we have freedom, and it's going to show you the map as well from where to where our application is happening. Right, and then we do have option to select the resource group. We do have option to select the VM resource group, which is going to be look like. We have option to select the virtual network. So all of those things are predefined, and then we have availability, like is it going to be in the availability set, either it's going to be in availability zone, or either it's going to be a single instance. So that's something we can do, and then it's going to create a one cache storage. That cache storage will be used for the replication, and then we do have option to select our replications, like what are the policies and what is the things looks like. And if you have if you want to add uh, if you want to use your existing one, it can use that. But in our case, I'm creating a new one, and this recovery vault is going to be creating H2S. Most probably the reason why the VM is not showing in my recovery vault, because I have selected the same location where the recovery vault or the VM is created. But to correct that, and to correct my existing statement in the demo, whenever you're creating a recovery vault, you need to make sure you should be going to create a recovery vault in the location where you are protecting, in which you want to protect your resources. And then you can see what is your settings looks like, what are the automation account has been done, and then click on review. You will be able to see what exactly is happening and what are the configuration is there, and then you can click on start replicate. As soon as you click on start replication, it's going to create a recovery vault. It's going to create a protection for this VM, and then it's going to start replicated the VM to the another region. So it's going to take a little time, and so let's wait for get this deployment completed, and then I'll show you how your application or how your VM protected VM looks like inside the recovery port. Most probably I would not be able to uh, show you how failover or test failover happen, and I'll show you the option from where you can do the failover and test failover, because this VM replication is going to be take time, because it's going to replicate our complete VM, which is require some time to replication. Right, so this is showing us the recovery vault has been created. So let's go ahead and refresh this one. Okay, it's showing us the recovery vault is still not there, but here it's showing us the recovery vault is created. So we can directly go to the service. Yep, this is here. This is a resource group where it's deployed a one virtual network for this VM, because when you do a failover, you need to have a address space, or you need to have a subnet. Sorry, you need to have a network, and in network you need to have a subnet, so that it can use that address space or use that virtual network to for the failover, because a VM required a virtual network is the mandatory part, or a kind of one of the requirement to create the VM inside the Azure. So yeah, it's showing us it's enabling the replication for VM. So if you go to the VM, which is there, and if you go to the disaster recovery, you will be able to see more information here. But as of now, since this has been not updated, protection is still being enabling for this VM. So yeah, this is going to take a little time, as I told you. And to monitor that, what exactly happening, we can go on this enabling protection for a VM, and we can see what exactly this task is doing, right? So if you see, the application policy has been created. Now it's creating a site inside the recovery vaults. So now you see the recovery vault is also being created, and then inside the protected item, you would be able to see the VM is showing here once the protection is enabled. So as of now, the protection is not enabled, but to monitor the job, what we can do, we can go inside the site recovery job under the monitoring, and we can see what exactly is happening uh, for the protection which I have enabled. So the replication policy has been created. Now it's creating the rest of the requirements or rest of the configuration for the site recovery. So see, the server and has been successfully created. This is a default containers which basically created between in between India and other region, because that's required. That's a basic requirement. Now it's created the application policy. Now it's created the protection container. Now it's creating the another site in the east to US so that it can map both resources or both location for the primary and the DR inside the recovery vault, right? So still taking a little time, right? But what happened once this is replicate, this is done, or this configuration is, or the VM is replicated, or VM is enabled for the replication, we would be able to see a VM replication status here underside the replicated item, and then we would be able to see what is the status, what is the replication health, what is the active location, or what is the failover health looks like for the protected VM. Yep. So network is created, the mapping is created, the container is created. Now I think this is going to be enable or start protecting the VM. So we'll wait for a few more minutes and see if that's happened, and then we'll move forward. So you see, now it's associating the replication policy to the VM, so that this can be uh, you know the VM can be replicated based on the replication policy. So the all of these tasks which is showing here, we do have an option to do it through the PowerShell. We can use the PowerShell to do that as well. But ASR have already have all of these tasks automated. So it's better to have the portal. But you can also use the PowerShell, or maybe or you can also use your the Terraform codes to enable or build your disaster recovery, or the recovery vault, and enable the protection for your VMs as well. All right, so VM is still not there, so it's going to take it's taking a little more time. So let's wait for some more time and see if we are able to see, or we will be able to see a VM there. So if you go inside the policy, you would be able to see what exactly happening. It's preparing for configuring protection and configure the protection settings. So all of these things are happening. Uh, Checking are happening with the VM. And then one more thing I would like to show you here. If you go to the VM, most probably you would be able to see there is a one extension is being installed inside the VM for specifically for this site recovery, and that will be only going to be happen once the disaster protection is successfully enabled. And then you do have option, and here from here we can monitor and see and modify the configuration for this VM as well. So it's still associating the policy, right? So that's how you enable it. Once this is enabled, you will be going to get the option for the test failovers, and you will be going to get the options for to do the failover and the rest of the configurations inside the recovery vault. Well, that's what I have in the demo. I hope you like this video. If you like, please click on like and subscribe for more upcoming videos. And please feel free to reach us in case of if you need any help. Right? That's all. Thank you.